What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 305 Takes. Me and Angel are back for you and excited for this episode as we are still diving into the NBA. And it's been a crazy NBA season with the standings changing every day. You basically have to refresh every morning to see exactly what the latest standings are because especially in the Western Conference, a lot of these teams are really just jumbled up, and you can have teams going all the way from like 6th to 11th, depending on what the outcomes are for the night. And, in the Eastern Conference, we have our favorite basketball team that is just honestly not the best basketball team that I've seen. And it's getting sadder and sadder to watch that team. So we have a lot to get to a lot of show to do for you guys, and we're excited to do it. Angel, what are you looking forward to for today's episode?
I'm really looking forward to one topic mainly that we could talk about a bit more. And it's a good conversation also for you guys and a good question. We're going to be talking about which team is doing the best rebuild so far in the NBA. Which situations do you like the most in the future? And obviously, there's a lot of teams out there. One team, we both picked one that we really like in terms of what a team could build around. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. And then the one I'm least excited about is our Heat because we have to talk about what we would like, and I'm pretty sure what we would like, you and me, or if it's different. There's gonna be a lot of Heat fans that are like, nope, completely wrong. When it's like, bro, I don't want to suffer.
Yeah, it's been a little painful this year. I'm not even gonna lie, especially considering where expectations were coming off of last season's run to the Eastern Conference Finals. But let's get right into it. And our first topic for the day today will be the current state of the NBA playoff picture. And I will read you guys the standings as we sit currently. So in the Eastern Conference, we have pretty much the top four is kind of locked in already with Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, and Cleveland. There could be some shuffling as far as where those guys eventually sit in the conference standings. Who gets third, who gets fourth, because Milwaukee and Boston do play Thursday night, so we'll have an outcome for you guys then. But I think those are probably the only four teams I could see realistically winning the East, and maybe only three because I still think Cleveland is maybe a year too early to be really considered for that. And then after that, we move down. We have the New York Knicks who just keep winning, and they win in different ways. It can be ugly, they can outscore you, but I think they're a really solid team this year. Then the Brooklyn Nets continue to hang on to that number 6 spot, the last spot that does not have to play in the play-in to actually clinch their spot in the playoffs. And Mikal Bridges has been really good for them since that's happened. And you got the unbelievable stat the other day that was making its rounds that the guys that they've acquired from Kevin Durant have now played more minutes combined than Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and James Harden combined to play in a Brooklyn Nets uniform, which is just insane. And then we have our favorite little basketball team down here in Miami, currently sitting a game and a half back of Brooklyn for that last spot before the play-in game at the 7th spot. And then you have Atlanta and Toronto both with the same record and 8 and 9, both 38 and 38, squarely at 500. And I don't know if you've seen this like stat, I guess you can call it, that Atlanta has had a chance to go
Yeah,
either a game over or below
they
500
just
for
stay
like
at 500.
25 straight games, and that they just simply can't. It just completely evens back out, and they're at 38 and 38. And then the last team currently in the play-in is the Chicago Bulls, who have been playing better as of late. They just they just really miss Lonzo Ball, man. And I hope he can somehow make a full recovery and see the basketball court again, even if he's not the same
Yeah.
player that we've seen from him in the past. It will be disappointing because he got off to such a great start with his tenure in Chicago, but hopefully he can make just some type of return and see some action. So, what are your takeaways of how we are in the East right now?
Personally, the East, I do like some of the matchups if they were to happen. So obviously the plane, you don't know who's gonna come out. So I'm just gonna go 1 through 8. And if it stays like this, the Hawks are gonna play the Bucks.
Get ran over.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. The Heat will have a rematch with the Celtics, and the Celtics are good on offense. Defense, they're not that great this year. So I think Miami can give them a series? Maybe. I just
I
feel
mean,
like now,
they do play them tough like that.
yeah,
I'm sure that if you ask the Celtics outside of facing Milwaukee, they're probably most concerned with Jimmy Butler
yeah,
because something happens with that guy and the Boston Celtics. We've seen it in a regular season matchup this year. We saw that entire 7 game series last year, and it's just tough to kill Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. But still, I think this year's Heat team is certainly not last year's Heat team, and
yeah.
it might be a gentleman's sweep in that one, honestly.
Yeah. And then you have the Nets against the Sixers. I think that would actually be a very good matchup. I do think if the Nets had a star, it would make it more interesting, but I do think the 76ers should pull through. And then this was actually, I think, would be probably the best first round series out of all of them. The Cavs and the Knicks.
That would be fun.
The Knicks are playing much better basketball. Jalen Brunson has been great. Josh Hart has been great for them since coming off of that trade. Julius Randle's having a much better year. The only person we are seeing less minutes on the floor is RJ Barrett. He's getting less minutes on the floor. But if he could be productive in that series, that could really help them. And then you have the Cavs, this young team, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Okoro. You have Karis LeVert off the bench, who's not having the best year, but they still have a really good team. And that one, I do think the Cavs should be there. But I just feel like with the East, what I'm seeing is that the top 4 teams should be the last 4 team standings.
Yeah.
What I think in the playoffs, and then they can go at each other from there. But with the way I'm looking at it, I feel like Milwaukee's gonna go to the finals.
Dude,
Just
Milwaukee is tough this year.
yeah,
Milwaukee is tough.
if Boston was playing better defense, I would pick Boston. But there's just some nights where Boston, they truly don't play defense.
I mean, the other night when they played Indiana was insane.
Yeah,
Insane
and
that they
Boston's had some bad losses. Those back-to-back losses against the Magic, like
and
if
they lost to the Rockets. I know Tatum had a shot at the buzzer to win it that he missed, but still they lost to the Rockets. They
they've had
got
some bad losses this year.
they gave up 130 points to Washington on Tuesday.
Mhm.
130 points to Washington. And that's and it I don't know because
Didn't they
they're
lose to
obviously
OKC this year too?
yeah, they lost to OKC at home. They've just recently last Saturday they lost to Utah, who Utah's basically kind of selling it in that they're,
Yeah.
trying to improve their draft positioning. I just mentioned the 2 point loss to the Rockets. It's not the same Boston team as last year. It's just Tatum and Brown, man. Like that's going to be a tough matchup for just about anybody not named Milwaukee.
Yeah, because
That's
at
the
least
thing.
Milwaukee has a size that can like intimidate them because you have Drew, obviously a great defender who had a 50-point game the other night, who's unbelievable. You have Giannis, who's still making a case that he's the best player on the planet.
Yeah.
And then you have
Giannis, Drew, Brooke Lopez all being on the same defense is
it's
pretty insane.
tough.
And
You have to
especially in
get
the modern NBA, like that's about
yeah,
as
have a
perfect as a
good
defense you
perimeter
can get.
defender in Drew, and then you got to try to navigate through the pain of Giannis and Brooke Lopez, who could be what probably the best 1-2 rim protector in basketball.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
So
And
it's tough. So that's what I see with them. And then when I go to the West,
okay, let me
I
read through
feel
the
like
West because
yeah,
the West is insane right now. So
yeah.
here, let me get you our Western Conference standings as of right now. So we have the Denver Nuggets at number one, even
Mhm.
though they've been up and down, I would say the last like month of the season. And you always have to wonder what their motivation has been because they've been pretty much the one seed throughout the season. But that's something to keep an eye on a little bit. Number two, you have Memphis who's been playing pretty well since Jaw's return. Hopefully
Mhm.
everything, just stays calm. Hopefully they get Steven Adams back going into the playoffs too, because I think that's low-key been a storyline that's been swept under the rug with all the Jaw stuff is that they haven't had Steven Adams and then they lost Brandon Clark for the season with the torn Achilles. So that is something to keep an eye out as well. And then Sacramento, shout out to the Kings, man, to finally snap the longest playoff drought for any of the 4 major sports here in America. So shout out to the Kings. They're number 3 seed, locked in their playoff spot already. 4, Phoenix, who just got back Kevin Durant for the game against Minnesota. Then we have 5, the Clippers, which, you know, depending on what day you see them, you're like, oh my goodness, this Clippers team's good. Then sometimes they get
They're
up to a
bad.
9-0 run
Yeah.
against the Thunder in the first quarter and still lose the quarter by 5 points. And you're like, how did this just happen? Golden State sitting at 6. And that is the most confusing team
Yeah.
I could have ever envisioned. Like that, I don't know what happens with them.
Great at home, but on the road they are so different. So
And then you have Minnesota at 7, who they've kind of righted their season back, especially with the addition of Karl Anthony Towns coming back to the lineup as he missed
helped a
about
lot.
3 months with that calf injury, and he's been playing really well since he's come back for them. They're currently 7th or 39-38. The Los Angeles Lakers
Are in
and
the 8th spot.
tied with New Orleans at 38-38 as the record. I believe the Lakers have the tiebreaker right now because they beat the hell out of the Thunder or the Pelicans a couple of weeks ago. And then the last spot in the Western Conference play-in tournament would be one Oklahoma City Thunder, who
Man.
are 6-4 in their last 10 games. It's
Yeah.
crazy. The Lakers and the Pelicans have the same exact record, and OKC is 38 and
They're right
39,
there.
just a half game behind them.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those teams are 6-4 in their last 10
Yeah.
games. It's
That's
insane. And
that
then
one, the
currently
matchups
sitting on
are
the outside looking in is
mm-hmm.
one Dallas Mavericks sitting 3 games under
Yeah.
500. I believe they're 4-8 since
Kyrie.
combining the talents of one Kyrie Irving to join Luka Doncic. And if they don't make the playoffs, I will be, and not even if they don't make the playoffs, if they don't make the play-in, I will be very, very interested to see what
Yeah.
happens over there in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about Dallas after this, so we could always get it that deep dive. But in the Western Conference, I feel like we're on the same page about the East, where it's kind of like the top 4 teams will be the last 4 teams standing. In the West, I generally could see upsets. I could see upsets in this one. The one upset I think is most likely just not that I don't think this team is ready. I just think the experience this team has overmatches what a lot of people are saying. I think if it stays like the way it is now, I give the Warriors a great shot at beating the Kings. I give them a great shot. I love what the Kings have done. I think De'Aaron Fox has really
They're
stepped up
super
his
fun.
game. And
Yeah.
Sabonis, he's done well. Keegan Murray, he's been one of the best rookies in
Monk's been
basketball.
amazing off the bench for them. The Herder trade was great for them. I know he's
Yeah,
been
I
out
mean,
a little bit, but if they get him back for the playoffs, that was an absolute
yeah.
steal by them.
I mean, it's right now, all the moves the Kings have made the past 2 years. We questioned the Sabonis trade because we're for anyone that hasn't listened to the show, me and Myles are big
I love
Tyrese
me a
Halliburton
Tyrese.
fans.
I love
We
it.
we like Tyrese a lot. And we liked him more than De'Aaron Fox. And we were just shocked. It's like, why would you trade him? Like, trade the other guy. Because Tyrese was so good in the pick and roll. And I think that Sabonis can thrive with that. But he's thrived with both of them. It looks like he's thrived with De'Aaron Fox and this whole team. But the Warriors are not playing like the way they did last year. And there's times where I'm like, I look at the Warriors, I'm like, okay, what are you doing? But I still have to give them the experience because that experience in the playoffs, they know how to win playoff basketball. They know it's like, hey, this is the time where it's like, yeah, we could be down 10 points, but if we just make a couple of stops and get a few baskets, we're right back in this game. So that's
And
where I feel like it can really help them.
the one thing we can say is that the only time we've seen Draymond, Clay, and Steph all together and lose in the playoffs was when they lost 3-1 to LeBron
LeBron.
James and
Yeah,
Kyrie. Outside of that, every time we see them
they
together,
win.
they go to the finals and they win it.
Yeah,
Like
so
they
I
just flat out win it. So I'm kind of with you, and it's kind of how I felt going into the NFL playoffs, where it's like, all right, am I really gonna bet against Patrick Mahomes? And like I get, okay, it's different in basketball because it's not so singular, and especially in the playoffs, you need
yeah,
guys to step up. But I think especially if they can get Wiggins back for the playoffs, which we'll see what happens there. He's been out
yeah,
for a while, and they got Gary Payton back. I mean, that's essentially the team that they had last
yeah.
year that beat Boston, and I didn't
And
expect them to beat Boston.
And it's so hard to beat Steph and Clay. Like once Steph and Clay get rolling, it is difficult to beat them because they can just shoot the lights out. And then you still have Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole can get you a bucket. Obviously, he's not having the year he did last year.
He's
I
just so hot and cold, but that's
yeah,
one of those guys that's like, okay, we're here now, and this is where you need somebody to
yeah,
step up. You need to elevate, and we've seen him have magical games. I mean, the other day he went crazy in the fourth quarter, help him win a game. The only
yeah.
thing with me is that they set the record for most consecutive playoff series where they won a game as the away team. Now, this year, they've been absolutely awful on the
Terrible.
road.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful here. This is their record. Away, they are 9-29 on the season. They've won 9
I
games
think they
away.
hold two of the longest losing two of the top five longest losing streaks on the road for a defending champ just this year alone.
And at home, they're 31-8. And just for reference, Denver, who is the number one team in their conference, is 32-6 at home. The Warriors have one less home win than Denver. It's because they can't win on the road. But then I give you the stat about they set the record for most consecutive series in the playoffs where they won a game as their road team. So it's kind of unbelievable. They only have two more wins on the road than the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
The
So
Detroit Pistons. So
and
it's like, what do I
that's
make
the
of this
worst team
team?
in
But
basketball right now.
and it's like, what do I make of this team? Because I trust them, I trust Steph, but it's like,
Yeah. I mean, but we
they
still
just
gotta
have
give
been
it
so up and down.
that playoff experience is there. I feel like this might be the last year we see the trio of Steph, Clay, and Draymond together. I think this is the last year.
And especially because Draymond has the potential to be a free agent after this year,
Yeah.
and I think it'll be
But
very
I
interesting.
just feel like now they'll move on because I don't know if they can move past the viral video of Jordan Poole getting humiliated and getting
Yeah,
sucker punched by Draymond. I don't know if they can move past that. And plus, Draymond sometimes does like all these outbursts in the
yeah.
game. Yeah, obviously sometimes it helps them, but also, bro, sometimes you're also gonna be the distraction because you're gonna get these flagrant fouls, you're gonna get these texts, and what if you get suspended for a game, which you just did?
And we've seen that change a whole finals outcome,
Yeah, so
being
I
suspended
feel
in a
like
game.
that might be the last year. If not, maybe they try to move Clay and get some more pieces to have a longer run with Steph. That could be something I feel like the Warriors can do. So I do see that. I see that as a potential upset. And another potential upset, just because I don't like the way, yeah, they've been playing good lately, but the season it hasn't looked that great. I feel like the Grizzlies they can lose in the first round.
And especially like I mentioned with losing Brandon Clark, because I thought their potential best lineup to end games was going to be Clark and Jaron Jackson at the 4 and 5,
Yeah,
and then you can
they would
kind of
be more
switch
athletic
everything.
on the floor.
Yeah, and you can kind of switch everything. It helps out your offense. I know that they're not the best shooters, but it's better. It's more spacing than having Steven Adams out there. But without that, they're gonna have to rely on Adams a lot more. And I know he's like a huge part, especially for their offensive rebounding, because they don't really grab too many of those. But he hasn't played in a while, and I don't know if there's any guarantee. I know they said he would be reevaluated right before the playoffs start. There's no guarantee that he's going to be 100% healthy for them going into the matchup, going into the playoffs. And I think it really just depends on who they play because I hate to say it because I'm not the biggest fan of this team, but I think their team makes a lot more sense since the trade deadline. But Los Angeles Lakers,
They
Memphis
can beat them.
first round series,
Lakers can
especially
beat them.
especially if AD is actually going to show up and not be injured on the floor,
Yeah.
15 minutes into the first game, I think that's a potential upset. And me and you, okay, so I think I don't really know what to make of this Minnesota team. I wish I could have just seen them more with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Edwards, and I think he's a guy that could potentially swing an entire series, especially with his scoring. But I just need to see it more. But the other two teams, if New Orleans can get back Zion,
Yeah.
which is a big, big if,
Yeah.
a big, big if, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Memphis. And
They would
then
also have to be more consistent. New Orleans is good. They're just not consistent and sometimes they flame out.
and they suck without Zion.
Yeah,
Like they would be like Charlotte without Zion.
yeah.
Like if their team was just like this without Zion, I think they would be fully entrenched in the Wembayamba sweepstakes. But am I crazy for thinking the Oklahoma City Thunder could pull that
For
up?
for people that don't know, when we talk about our rebuild, we're gonna talk a lot more about OKC because we like
I
the
wouldn't
team.
be surprised. I would not be
Shea
surprised.
Shea has evolved his game more and more every year. Josh Giddey, very underrated playmaker. I think he's actually one of the better playmakers in all of the NBA because he gets his teammates involved and he's scoring better than he did last year. You have both the Williams, both well, technically they're both Jay Williams.
Jalen Williams, yeah, both
Yeah.
Jalen Williams. One's J Dub and one goes just Jalen Williams.
Yeah, so J Dub Williams, I think he's actually very good. I think he'll be in the starting lineup next year. And this is without Chet, the
Yep,
second.
the second pick in this year's draft.
And they're having they're playing a small lineup almost every night, but they're playing good and they defend well. They're a pretty good defending team. The only thing will just be once they play Memphis, I'm like, all right, can you actually match them point for point instead of it just being Shea getting a lot of points? Can Josh Giddey be more aggressive to the basket? Can Lou Dort be more consistent on offense? Because to me, if Lou Dort was more consistent on offense, I would give them much more better chance. Because I love Lou Dort on defense.
Yeah,
His offense
that
is
guy's
it's very inconsistent. Like there's some nights he'll get some good shots and he'll make
yeah.
them, but there's other nights where I just know like this dude's not going to make a single shot.
And that guy plays defense like a football
He,
player. He plays like
he's
somebody
a
called up
great for a
the
smaller player in basketball, great defender.
he plays like literally like a cornerback. Like he is
Yeah.
going to get in you. He's going to let you know
He
this is what's
averages two
happening.
steals a game for a reason.
And so if we look at OKC for the season, they have an offensive rating of 115 and a defensive rating of 114. So, they're about even for the year. Like they're not bad on offense, they're not bad on defense. They're just right there. And I agree with you. I think they have a lot of different ways that they can attack you. I mean, Shea is averaging 31 points a game on 51% shooting from the field. And it's not even like he's one of these guys that shoots a lot of threes. He only averages 2.5
Yeah.
three-pointers
He's a
attempted
great
per game.
to the basket. He's a great driver.
He knows his angles. Like he's one of those
Yeah.
guys that is just all angles. Let me get to my spot, rise up before you even know what to do. But you look at it, Shea at 31 points a game. Josh Giddey, which I don't even think scoring is his number one best attribute. He's at 16 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, 6 assists. Jalen Williams, as a rookie, is at 14 points a game, shooting 36% from three and shooting 52% overall from the field. Then you go to Lou Dort, who we just said, I wish he was a little bit better offensively. 13 points a game, giving you 4.5 rebounds a game, 2 assists, and like you said, he's up to almost 2 steals a game on the season, shooting 34% from three, and this is the problem, 39% from the field.
Yeah. That's the only thing with Lou Dort. And I was like, this is all without Chet. Obviously, we don't know if Chet is going to be the impactful player. That's always, whether to be seen. But I feel like they would have a good shot at the Grizzlies. And then, man, with the way the Nuggets have played the last month, it kind of scares me on who they play. But man, this is tough because the West, I could see almost all of these teams making the finals, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see any of these teams lose in the first round.
Well, I think the West is. I think the best way we can just describe it is that the West is
It's a toss
completely
up.
wide open,
Yeah.
completely wide open. Because we would have expected Golden State to probably be more up closer to the top, but we just gave you reasons why they're a little suspect this year. Phoenix, even with the quadruplets that they have with Aiden, Booker, Paul, and now Kevin Durant, I still think there's serious questions about who's their fifth
Chemistry.
starter and
Mhm.
who's gonna perform for them off the bench. Sacramento, I think, has been a crazy fun team all year, but I don't necessarily think they play anywhere close to enough defense to really be taken serious. And then Memphis, I would love the story because you can say everybody wrote us off, everybody counted us out, but I just think the injuries are a little bit too much. And then Denver, I mean, there's really no excuse for Denver other than will Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. show up.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And then you got a team like LA, which I would have said before when they had Westbrook, there's no way. But
Yeah.
you make
The
some
Paul
smart
George
moves, your
injury
team
hurts a
actually
lot.
looks, yeah. And you make some moves at the deadline. I think Westbrook's actually been pretty decent for the Clippers, and especially now with Paul George being out, I think they actually kind of need to rely on him because they need somebody to kind of get them into their offense. Another another person to make moves for the defense to actually have to pay attention to because they do get a little bit stagnant when they have one of those two guys out.
Yeah. So the West, it's man, I almost any team I feel like can make a good run, and I wouldn't be shocked. But man, that's a tough one to pick. Really
Yeah,
tough.
yeah, but I'm definitely looking forward to it, and we can move on to our next topic, which is if the Dallas Mavericks don't make the playoffs, what is going to happen over there?
Well, as I'm one of the few people, I don't know if you're with me on this. Dallas has a first round pick protected, but it's top 10 protected. So if they get
Exactly.
a top 10 pick, it is their first round pick.
And you know where they currently sit as their
Yeah,
11th
they're the
seed?
10th pick.
They're
They
the
would
10th worst record right now.
so I'm like, Dallas, if I'm you, like to be honest, because once you if it's 11 or more, it goes to the Knicks.
Yeah.
So personally, I would tank and try to get a better team just because you don't have the size, I think, to be with any team. Because in the playoffs, you really need to rebound. Rebounds and second chance points matter a lot. I understand
PJ
Luke.
Washington got 40 points and 12 rebounds against the Magic. He
Yeah.
played like Shaq. They lost to the Hornets back to back.
Yeah. So that it's tough on that one. And then what I would like their defense, they're just not good. And the loss of Finney Smith, you really see how bad they are on defense. And
It's
oh, God, and on offense, it's almost like Brooklyn again. It's like isolation basketball where it's
and you take your turn, I take
yeah,
my turn. I'm going to stand in the corner when you have the ball. I'll stay out of your
yeah.
way. And it's just been a lot. I mean, losing Brunson obviously was a mistake. I don't think any of us thought Brunson was this would be this good with like a bigger role. Like obviously like he's exceeded expectations, but I mean we saw in the playoffs the guy was getting buckets and he fit with Luka. So that was the first mistake. I thought they did well with getting Dinwiddie. I thought they did well getting Dinwiddie. I thought he actually played, decent. He could be another option for them. He wasn't necessarily maybe suited to be your second best player when you have Luca, but to trade Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith, basically the only guy on your team that is like, oh yeah, I'll play defense. Like I actually take pride in my defense. Now it's just nothing. Like now you have nothing. Like you signed JaVale McGee.
You don't
I
play
don't
him.
know. You signed JaVale McGee to a 3-year contract. Like I don't understand that. He doesn't even play, and you guys have negative centers now. It's just Dwight Powell, and like I think Dwight Powell's a good backup center, but
If you
that's
had him
like
at the
20
four,
minutes
that
a
would be
game.
better.
Yeah. And then you have Kleba, who like I feel bad for because he actually like cares. He cares and like he'll try, but he tore his hamstring this year. And like they're like, okay, now you have to be our best defender, like trying to come back
Yeah.
from a torn hamstring. Tim Hardaway Jr. might be one of the most irrational confidence guys that we have in the NBA these days because
Yeah.
he thinks he's him. He thinks he's Luca.
I gotta give him credit because he has the confidence. It's just the game is not there.
He wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, and he thinks Luka Doncic is staring back at him. Like that's his problem. And then so that's like your third best player right now. And Kyrie is super talented, really good, but when your two best players are beyond zeros on defense, like you're
It's
gonna have
tough.
to score 160 points. Like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's it. And if you don't, you're gonna lose.
Yeah. It's so personally, if I'm the Mavericks, I would tank to get a lottery pick and try to get something. Because I
The
think
only thing is
eventually,
that
if they keep
Kyrie
going
can
down
just
this,
walk away.
yeah, Kyrie could walk away, and then if they keep going down this path where they're just not producing, Luka's gonna walk out that door.
And come right to Miami. Wait, who said that?
I wish, bro. I really wish, but I don't know because Luka's so ball dominant. And then
Yeah.
we could say this in Miami, it doesn't matter if you were ball dominant or not. They are gonna make sure you pass the basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we had LeBron James, we had Dwayne Wade, and I wasn't like, okay, here's a thousand pick and
Yeah,
rolls.
yeah. No, it was they passed the basketball. So and plus in Miami, you play defense. Like
Have to,
whether
non-negotiable.
you are good or bad, you play defense. As Duncan Robinson, whenever he gets a chance, they expect him to play defense.
Yeah,
Even though he's terrible at defense,
it's
he's
non-negotiable.
it's non-negotiable. So I don't know. I mean, I would love Luca on the Heat, but that's a whole different question. But yeah, if I'm Dallas, personally, I would try to stay where I am right now, try to get the 10th pick, get a lottery pick, and convince Kyrie and Luca, like, hey, if we get a lottery pick, we're gonna get some talent coming through this door. and that would make it more feasible and try to get Kyrie on like maybe a 2-year deal where it's like, hey, give us 2 years. And if it doesn't work in 2 years, we'll trade you. We'll trade you
Yeah.
to wherever you want. Like, I'll say the no trade clause. You could demand where you want to get traded. That would be me. That would be my pitch to Kyrie.
Yeah, I agree. They're in a tough situation. Not only do you miss out on a guy that was already on your team and good, and then you have to make a trade to kind of make up for it, and then now you're kind of stuck with the team that's just I don't think that good. Like, yeah, you have two really, really good players, but I don't think you're like championship good at all, not even in the discussion. So I think that's a fascinating team to watch out for. And we didn't even mention Christian Wood, who they traded for. And I mean, I don't think he's been good this year. Like,
Yeah, I just don't think he fits well. If he was in more of like a half court team instead of like a, I feel like he would be much better because
and
Detroit, he got some opportunities. Houston, he
Houston
was
was
almost
pretty
like the
good.
number one option.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another guy that's not really interested in defense.
Yeah, Christian Wood does not want to play defense.
Yeah, so Dallas will be a team to definitely keep our eye out in the future, and another team whose future I think is going to be very clouded very soon here is our favorite basketball team, the Miami Heat, and we're going to just do a quick little segment here because they honestly really don't deserve too much. They don't have too much that we really talk about because they're simply just not that good of a team this year, and it
We're
really
not.
does pain me to say it because it is my favorite team, but honestly, this is probably one of my least favorite teams to Miami Heat teams
Watch.
to ever watch of all time. And then, you have two really disappointing losses the last couple of nights, losing both the back-to-backs in Toronto and then the next night in New York to the Knicks. And the New York one was really frustrating too because Julius Randle was only limited to 15 minutes because of an ankle injury. He still really never have a chance. And, I just don't get how Jimmy can play 35 minutes in a basketball game and only take 10 shots. And then you look at Victor Oladipo plays 17 minutes and goes 1 of 7 from the three and has 10 shots as well. It's like, okay, I guess somebody was interested in shooting the ball and it wasn't the guy that I think is better. And listen, I floated this to you before we started recording, and I'm gonna say it here now. I obviously I don't want it to happen as a fan, but as a fan of the NBA, I think a dream scenario for NBA fans would be the Miami Heat make the play in, they lose both play in games and do not qualify for the playoffs, and they have to do some real soul searching. And in that soul searching, they realize we've reached our potential with Jimmy Butler as our number one, and we're going to trade him and the team I want him to be traded to because I think this would be a perfect marriage between players and how they play and just fit would be Jimmy Butler gets traded to the Denver Nuggets and he gets to play alongside Nikola Jokic, who could at that point be a three-time MVP winner.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on the part of like saying just because I want the Heat to have such a bright future, I understand it. The Heat culture is not to think about 2 years from now. It's just what is happening today, which I get, I understand. But clearly, it's not working out, and we're wasting Jimmy's prime. If we really look at it, we're wasting it. So I would have no problem if the Heat didn't make the playoffs and then the Heat trade Jimmy. I would like to obviously get something great in return because I want some building blocks. I feel like we keep Bam, we keep Tyler, try to trade Kyle for something. I don't care what it is. Like to me, if we could get rid of if the Heat trade Jimmy, Kyle, and Duncan Robinson, I feel like they can do a really good restart, and the rebuild process would be a lot better for the Heat. Because I feel like all right, we can mix and match some players, we can bring in some guys, we can get some good quality draft picks. Because I would like to have a top 10 pick. I really would. But I just know it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen unless one team in that top 10, whoever lands in top 10 thinks, oh yeah, if we have Jimmy, we can do this. Yeah, we'll trade our first round pick to the Heat. I mean, if that happens, I'll take it just because I feel like this draft class has a lot of good talent. But man, I would really like to do a restart button and build a team around Bam and Tyler. Because Tyler, obviously, he's not having the best year since he's been in the starting lineup.
But I do think he's still good, and I think
He's
he's
still
proven.
good.
I think he's proven to us year over year that he improves because
Yeah.
he won 6 man last year. He came and he said he wanted the starting job. He's been in the starting job, and you know, he is still a little bit inconsistent, but this entire team is inconsistent, and you
Yeah,
can
this whole
see
team.
that when Jimmy doesn't play, he knows that he has to like
Yeah,
increase his load. He has to, try to give everything for the team because there's a lot
yeah,
that Jimmy carries, and when he's not in, that there's a lot that needs to be replaced. So you can see it, especially that Toronto game. I thought he played really well in the first half, and then the team, I don't know
it
what happened in the second
exploded.
half. They stopped scoring in the second half. Like they
Yeah,
just said, okay, don't need 2 points anymore. But it's just been really frustrating. I mean, Bam, I feel like has really plateaued as a player, and it really pains me to say because I really enjoy the player. I really enjoy
yeah.
watching him
I
play. But offensively, I think this is just what we're
It's
gonna get
very
from him,
limited.
unless he, you know, unless he moves more into the Brook Lopez category where he's going to be more of a spot up guy. And then if he gets the mismatch, all right, now I'm going to go to the paint and dominate.
Yeah,
Then I think we can see a gradual improvement from him over a year-to-year basis. And I think he's amazing defensively, and he does a lot of stuff. He can switch, he can stay in front of quicker guys, smaller guys, and that is really important for a team. But offensively, I just think this is exactly what he is going to be. I don't think we can expect him to
yeah,
necessarily get any better from what we've seen.
yeah. So I mean, I would really like to do a reset button, find a new
Yeah.
point guard, try to find, see if we could get
See
a
if we
number.
can just take somebody to take Duncan
Yeah,
Robinson. I mean, you know how bad it has to be for Tim Legler to get on ESPN and say, "What happened to Duncan Robinson? Like,
exactly.
does he even exist anymore?" Like, we've
Yeah,
been seeing it for a while, but like, it's true. Like, what happened to him?
no idea.
And it's not even like you can. It's not like last year where Struess was amazing and like you
Yeah,
had to play
Bruce has
Struess.
been okay, and a lot
He's
of
been okay, but he's not as knocked down as he was last year. So you would think, okay, the
and
guy
people
that
think
was
Struce is
knocked
out the
down took a
door.
step down. Duncan should fill in, right?
Yep. And a lot of executives think Max Struess is going to walk away in free agency, which I think so too. Depending on looking at the contracts of the Heat, I don't see how they pay him.
Yeah, you can't really pay everybody. We know that you can't really pay everybody, and unfortunately, they're tied to Duncan.
Yeah.
Like that's the
So
investment that they made, and they still have to figure out what to do with Kyle. And unless he wants to take the Oladipo money, like,
yeah,
and I doubt that
I
he's going
don't
to want
think
to do
so. I
that
think
after being
Kyle's kind
on.
of done with Miami.
And then that's even before discussing what to do with Gabe Vincent. So there's a lot to figure out, and there's still no power forward on this team.
Yeah, so that's one that's why I
It's
wanted to
been
pitch it to you.
disappointing.
That's why I wanted to pitch it to you just because it seemed like a Heat move with OKC on the rise. I would actually call OKC and ask them the asking price of Lou Dort because I think both the Jay Williams, I feel like they have a they're going to be more prioritized to be in the starting lineup than Lou Dort, and then you already have Shea and Giddy, and then it's like, all right, whoever their top pick is in the draft, well, depending on where their first round pick is, plus Chet, I don't see how Lou Dort fits. So I wouldn't mind because Lou Dort's only 15 million a year. And I'm like, do I think Lou
I mean,
Dort is for
could we do Dort and Duncan for and we give up a first,
oh,
and
man,
then they could have some more shooting, have a guy
yeah.
that plays, but then
It would
they
help
do
them.
lose. That's like probably one of the biggest defensive downgrades going from Lou Dort to Duncan Robinson.
Yeah. Because I mean, I personally would love to have someone that could play defense for us. If and plus Lou Dort is
I
young.
just want a power forward,
Yeah.
bro. Like
A power
because
forward. We need a
Kevin
bullet.
Love
If not,
is so washed
yeah.
up, and Caleb Martin is so not a four.
Yeah, he's not a four. If you had him at the three, okay, like
Okay,
I can live with that. If not, get a center and just move Bam to the four.
that's
Because
it.
it's nothing against Bam. It's just some of the centers now, they're just way too big. They are way
They're
too big.
big and they come in different shapes and sizes. It's
And I
not the
feel like if
same.
Bam is at the four, that helps out our defense more. So, man, it frustrates me knowing that the Heat are like this now because we were basically a shot away from going to the NBA Finals. And who knows how that NBA Finals turns out? Is there a good chance we lose? Obviously, there's a very good chance we lose to the Warriors. But there's also a chance that we win. there's also a chance. So to go
I
from
mean, especially with the way Jimmy was playing, and that team was a good fit. Like everybody
yeah,
knew their role, but
PJ played his role, Bam was playing his role, Tyler was lighting it up off the bench.
yeah,
Oladipo,
it's
Oladipo was playing good.
it's sad to even think about, honestly, because just how far it's fallen off. And
Yeah,
I think that's all the time that they deserve because I'm gonna get depressed if I keep thinking about this team any
yeah.
longer.
It honestly
So
makes me sad.
let's move on to our last topic since we've mentioned two teams that are kind of in flux as far as what they should do with their future, and we've talked about the playoff standings. Let's look at some teams that we want to give props to that aren't necessarily in the playoff conversation. One team maybe, and they've been through a rebuild. So I'll go first. The team I want to give a shout out to, and a team that I'm looking forward to seeing them play in the future as they get older is I like this Orlando Magic team. I like this Orlando Magic team. I think Paolo is really, really good, and he's been good since basically day one. He has uh I think he's
He just can't
actually
shoot from three.
yeah, he can't shoot from three. In the month of February, he went 3 of 33 from three and shot
That
11%.
was awful.
Yeah. So I think he's kind of hit that rookie wall, especially because I don't think he's ever played this many games, considering, he's just a rookie this year. But you look at it, it's Paulo and Franz Wagner. I'm a huge fan of Franz, and I think that's a great foundation to start to build your team around. You got Franz, who's listed at 6'9", 225. Then you have Paolo, who's listed at 6'10", 250. And then you look at Jalen Suggs, who I think has taken a while to kind of develop. And, I think when we look back on his career, it might be like, oh, did we really have to take him with the fifth pick? But I think he's a really, really solid NBA player. And
Yeah,
especially if he could play more of the two guard than point guard, because, his shot's still
yeah.
a little bit questionable and teams go under it. But the guy that I am really, really impressed with because he's just been through so much in his career. And I'm really happy that he's gotten a chance to rebuild it is one Markel Fultz, who
Yeah,
averages
Markelle Fultz has been good with the Magic, and you know who's also been good for them? Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony has been good for them.
Cole, and I think he fits a role because they struggle to score sometimes. And this is another
The
guy. I
bucket.
wouldn't even call him irrational confidence because he actually is a good scorer. Like he's
Yeah,
just gonna put shots up. Like he's a microwave type of guy. And the bowl thing was cute, but the guy that I really have been impressed with them as well is Wendell Carter Jr.
Wendell Carter's been really good for them.
And the fact that they were able to get Wendell Carter in the Vucevic trade and two first round picks and
It
potentially
helps.
two high first round picks because they already drafted Franz with one of the picks that they got from Chicago, and then we'll see where this year's pick lands as far as with Chicago in the lottery and everything like that. So I think Orlando's going to be a really fun team to keep an eye out for the next couple of years. I could see them making a leap like OKC, especially if they can have two high first round picks their own and Chicago's this year. They're going to have a lot of talent. I still think they need a little bit more of a true point guard. I know he's a free agent at the end of the year. I would love to see them get Fred VanVleet.
That would help a lot. The only thing I would still be worried about with them is just their guards would be really small. That
Yeah.
would be
But
the
I do like it because you have
yeah,
Franz, you have Wendell,
follow.
you have Paulo. So you have a little bit of size to make up behind you that you can I think you could hopefully be able to hide them.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Magic they outside of like recording, I feel like they have a good team, like a good foundation to build on. Obviously, I think the best team that has like the brightest future, I think, is OKC, just because of we talked so much of them already in this pod. But one team I really like the future just because I love what I'm seeing from their young players. I like Detroit. I feel like Detroit has a good future. James Wiseman has been good for them since arriving there. He's been getting a double double almost every night, getting a solid 14 points and 10 to 12 rebounds a night. Jaden Ivey, I think Ivey's been good. And then this is all them playing like without Cade. If Cade can come back and then put himself in there and really get some distributing of the basketball there, I feel like they can be a much better team. I like what Jalen Duren has done. The only thing I
As the youngest player in the NBA this year.
Yeah, as the youngest player in the NBA. The only player I feel bad for, just because he had the really good connection with Cade, is Marvin Bagley. I feel like he'll be gone because Bagley was good last year when him and Cade were on the floor, but now
Cade is
with
so good.
yeah,
I wish we could have seen him this year.
and
That's the
imagine
only
him
thing.
with Wiseman. That would actually be better. James Wiseman would be getting more looks at the well, much
And
he'll get
Duran too. Imagine Duran with an actual point guard.
so I would like to see that. And then Ivy, I know if Cade is usually he wasn't as aggressive with the ball the first half of the year, then he was more aggressive. At least that's the one thing they don't have to worry about with Ivy, because Ivy's aggressive with the basketball.
Yeah.
So
And
they have a
he
slasher that
hates
can get
getting
to
getting
there.
downhill too.
Hmm.
Like the more he gets downhill, I think the more his game will open up.
Yeah. And to me, if Detroit can just get a couple of shooters on their team, guys who can take some threes, as much as I hate, well, they might hate to hear this, I would express the option of maybe bringing back a Luke Kennard.
Mm.
I feel like that would be a good thing for their home, like the town. I know he was
Yeah,
like a
catch and shoot
like
guy. Yeah.
favorite of there for a while. I think him with his shooting that can help a lot with the team. I mean, I feel like Detroit has a really good future because they have a lot of young players. The only thing to me, they need to get that star. Once they
Yeah, they
have the
need a guy that's a
star,
bucket getter.
once they have the star, I feel like they'll be all set, like ready to go. Because I feel like they have the makings of a good team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm a big fan of Cade. Cade's one of my favorite prospects to come
Cade
in.
has such a good all around game.
Yeah, and I think he's perfect for this version of the NBA that we have, where you have all these combo guards and it's all about switching and not being at a disadvantage. And it's just a shame that we couldn't see him a little bit more this year because he got shut down, I believe, after just 11 games. But Ivy had his first 30-point game the other night. I think he's going to continue to get better, especially if he can develop his shot a little bit more because we've seen the athleticism, we see how quick he is. And I think you're right. I think they just because they have bigs now. They have Wiseman, like you said, who's looked the best we've seen him so far in his career. Dern was the youngest player in the NBA, and I think he proved that he's going to be an NBA player for a long time. And I just think that what they're missing is because Boban has or not Boban,
Bogdan.
Bogdan, yeah, Bogdan has been really good for them, and I think a good veteran presence, and he's kind of their guy that they look to get the shot. But if they can get like a supersized version of Bogdan, I think then they'll really be cooking with fire.
Yeah. So man, that's the team I think that's got a good future. I like their future a lot. I mean, we were gonna plan on buying tickets this year. For anyone that didn't know, we talked about going to
I
see the
gotta see
Pistons,
Cade.
but
I gotta see
yeah,
Cade, man. I gotta see
good
him with
thing we
my own
didn't buy
eyes
the tickets because Cade got hurt.
right
So
away.
yeah, so
Yeah,
we were
so
like, okay, we might have saved a couple of bucks, but the only thing that kind of the one team I feel like their future, like they need to do something in order to make it shine. I think Houston has to make a couple of changes just because,
I I hate that team.
bro,
I hate that team.
Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., it's just isolation basketball.
I hate
They
that team.
they play like an AAU team where it's just all of them try to go one on one.
Yeah, they're all trying to get their first D1 offer, is
And I'm
what's
like,
happening in the NBA.
I'm like, you guys do know you're in the NBA. I understand all of you can get a bucket, but if you guys like share the basketball and then try to play defense,
And you
you can
realize you
actually be a
have
solid team.
a center named Alfred Sengun who is actually good at passing the ball
Yeah.
and like passing the ball.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Like he will help you guys get better, easier shots.
yeah.
I hate watching that team. I hate watching that
Did
team.
you see the
Anytime I even see
price
a highlight.
of the tickets at Houston when the
Yeah,
Pistons showed up?
yeah.
$2.
That's bad. That's bad. I mean,
When your tickets are more expensive than items at McDonald's.
if I was Victor's camp, that would be the only team I would be like, yeah, we have no interest in going there.
Yeah, no interest.
Like literally no interest in going there because I don't want to have to fight for the ball between getting the ball between Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. I think they already have Sengun who should play. They drafted Jabari last year, and now they're gonna add Victor.
If they get the first overall pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I was Victor, I'd be like, yeah, let's stay away from them.
Yeah, because bro, they are so allergic to passing the basketball.
You know what Steven Silas's record is in 3 years as their coach?
Oh my gosh, bro. I saw that. It was so awful, bro.
55 and 175.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, me and you, co-head coach. I don't think we do that much worse. I don't think it's that much worse. The players might not like us because we're gonna be like, "Yo, Jalen, bro, pass the
Pass the
ball,
ball. That's
pass
it.
the
We're not gonna
ball,
say
fam."
anything else, bro. Just pass the ball.
Yeah.
If you don't want to play defense, cool. I can
Okay.
live with that.
We'll run transition. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But just pass the ball. We'll run a 2-3 just to make you feel better. But just
Yeah.
pass the ball, fam. I don't need to see 17 step backs a game.
And then Kevin Porter Jr. Same thing, bro.
It's just one's right-handed, one's left-handed, but Spider-Man me.
Exactly. And then it's like Jabari Smith. I was like, I even feel like it hurts his development.
Yeah, they literally said Jabari Smith, have fun standing in this corner all year.
Yeah, it's hurt his development because he was a great wing in college, a great wing.
And he did stuff. He would dribble, he would move around, he would post up.
Yeah.
Nah. NBA, they're like, yep, corner threes all day, brother. Become Rashard Lewis for us.
No, even worse, PJ Tucker.
Yeah, literally. Don't dribble, no usage rate. Just maybe if you want to shoot this ball. Maybe though. You could pass it back to Jalen because he's going to be calling for it.
Yeah. But hey, so far, good podcast. Good podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's how we'll wrap it up for you guys here today. As always, we appreciate everybody for listening, checking us out. Podcast will be available on YouTube for you guys that want to get a visual experience. It'll also be available audio for you guys as well. We appreciate everybody for listening. We will be back next week. We'll stay tuned for what we have planned for then, but definitely going to be touching back on the NFL a little bit as we've had some free agency news. We've had some trades. NFL draft is coming up later in the month of April. And then we will continue with our NBA coverage as well, as I believe we're
The
down to
playoffs
like
will
10
start
games
soon.
left. Playoffs, play-in tournament will start, and we'll be covering that for you guys all the way through here on 305 Takes, as we always do. Angel, great podcast today. Till next time. Peace.